everybody. And again, happy October 2nd today. Second day of
Yeah,
October.
October already.
I'm trying to figure out where August went. I'm not even sure what happened, but anyway.
There's this comic artist that I follow on Facebook, and she puts out every first of the month of like, it's in October, and like her hair is pulled out kind of thing. And I feel this every month, every single month. So,
well, of course, I see all these, if you're on Facebook or whatever social media, I see all these funny memes that are like, you know, the countdown to Christmas or holiday season. And I was like, oh my goodness, like let's just enjoy September, October, and the nice fall we have first, and that incredible weather outside. So in saying that, thanks for joining us today, because I appreciate this week is going to be extraordinary and weather-wise. And so I thank you for sharing your time with us instead of sitting out in your backyard. So enjoying, or on your balcony, or however you would choose to enjoy the nice weather. All right, so for those Angie mentioned, but just joining us now, everybody's settled here. My name is Kristel Manes, and I'm the ED Executive Director here at Business Center Guelph-Wellington, and I have my colleague Angie Poirier, who is our Program Manager at the Business Center. So nice to have you here with us. We have a great sort of program for you today. We've got lots to talk about. So we are going to work with, I've got a PowerPoint ready for you. As Angie mentioned, for those who just joined us, if you have any questions, please, you know, you can throw it in the chat, and then we'll be happy to answer that for you. If you stop and talk and discuss that. If you have a story you'd like to share, we're always interested in hearing what you have to say. So again, you're welcome to share that in the chat. Or if it's something really burning that you want to share, please let us know, and we'll make sure we have time for that. We've got quite a bit to talk about, so we'll get through that as much as we can today. That's it. I think we'll get started, Angie. So most of you got your screens off, which is, Angie has mentioned that we are live on Facebook. So hello, everybody in Facebook land. Nice to have you here as well, too. Okay, Angie, you're off and ready whenever you are.
Yep. Do you want me to share the power? I got the
sure. Thank you.
Perfect. No problem.
I guess, and then if you give me co-host, then I don't have to bother you about the switching the slides.
Sure. You have co-host, so you should be good to go if you want.
Excellent. Okay. I don't have it here. Sorry.
No worries. If it's easier, I have it.
Yeah, just grab it if you wouldn't mind. Yeah, that would be great. We'll get started, folks. This is always the coordination. This is the fun part. Who's on first base? What's happening?
What's on second?
Yeah. Or who's on? Why's on? No, let's not start that.
There you go.
All right. Okay, wonderful. So, all right, let's get started, everybody. It's slow. Your screen is slow today, Angie.
Yeah, my internet has been brutal the past
having its own mind about things.
Couple of weeks. I don't even know why.
So welcome, as I said, everybody. So this is, as I said, we're Business Center Guelph-Wellington, and I'm just going to make sure we can flip this slide around here. There we go. So just to tell you a little bit about the Business Center, our mandate is to build and support entrepreneurs. So, you know, we have been around for 24 years. We're celebrating 24 years in November, which is pretty spectacular. And, you know, we basically, our job is to help with entrepreneurship. We work in both Guelph and Wellington County, which I'm really happy about. We love our Wellington friends as well as our Guelph friends. And we basically do work with all aspects of businesses. So we work with startups. We actually work with like the ideation stage of clients. We work with startups, people who have started their business, and then we also work with existing businesses as well too. So we have many different programs and supports that we can do, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those today. And I'll certainly direct you at the end of this where you can find more information if that's what you're interested in. So we're happy to be here. There we go. And who we represent here. So sorry if that's not full screen. It should be full screen for you. But we are, just so you know, we are a not-for-profit. 80% of our funding comes from, because a lot of people like to ask, people think we're government. We are not. We're separate from the government. We are our own entity and not for profit. But we do receive 80% of our funding through the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, which is a provincial ministry. We also get support from City of Guelph friends. We get support from the County of Wellington and also our Son of Wellington colleagues as well too. So what I mean by that is they help support our programming with dollars that make sure that all of our services are accessible to you. So that's what they help us make sure that happens. We are one of 47 small business centers across Ontario. If you didn't know that, there are, and they are all different in the way they are configured and things like that. So we work together as a network as well. So along with being a small business center, we also have an association. It's called SBC Connects, and it's or SBC Ontario is the proper name. So if you're interested in any of that, we do work as an association. And we have lots of information about that. And I'm sure Angie could even throw that in the chat there, the website there, if you're interested in some of that stuff. Because what that means is when you're an association, you can share each other's work, we share each other's programs, we share workshops, and we jointly promote each other. Because there's, so if you have somebody looking in a particular city or county for their local small business centers, then that will help direct you accordingly. We sit on boards of trade. We work with BIAs, which are business improvement associations. We work with Centre Wellington committees. We work with the City of Guelph Economic Development Committees. We work with smart cities. We work with all kinds of the regional innovation centers. So some of you might be familiar with Innovation Guelph. We also work with our chambers of commerce. We work with both Guelph Chamber of Commerce and Centre Wellington Chamber of Commerce. And the reason we do that is because honestly, we are all in the same business, so business advisory, business support, and we sort of call it our continuum of care, if you will. So we want to make sure that you are supported at every stage of development and growth of your business. So our relationships with the city and with the county and with the chambers and with Innovation Guelph, we can sort of help triage that journey for you. So if you're lost and caught in the shuffle and you don't know where to be, then we can make sure that you get the information that you need and you get to the resources that you need as soon as you can. And so that's why we do. And we love our partnerships. We work very well with them. And just to give you a little bit of idea, since we've been around since 1999, as I mentioned, we've created, helped the creation of over 10,000 jobs in the community, which is pretty amazing. We provide the advisors and mentor staff. We have a program called Starter Company, which we've just closed. We just had applications for, and it's closed until next year, but we award anywhere between $70,000 and $80,000 of grant money. So this is a program that businesses can take. So we're unfortunately not accepting any more people now, but you can always look to our program next year. We also run Summer Company, which is a student-based entrepreneurial program where we have students from the ages of 15 to 29 that are wanting to run their own business and try it for a summer. They can actually get grant money. They can get up to $3,000 of grant money, plus keep the proceeds of whatever they make over the summer. And it's a great way to teach entrepreneurship and even just the skills that they learn. So we work with them. We have mentors that work with them. They actually run businesses. We help them with sales and marketing and all that stuff. And even if they choose not to run their business after the summer, they finish, they close it off. It's a great learning experience. It's great marketable skills that these young people have. And also it looks great on a resume that you ran your own business. And we actually do have businesses that are in this community that actually started from our Summer Company program many moons ago. One of the most notable ones is a company called Sandbox Software Solutions. So if you haven't seen them, check them out. The two gentlemen that were the founders of that organization actually started at our Summer Company program probably about 17 years ago, and is now a company that is worldwide. And they have, I think, between 12 and 15 employees, and they do really great work. So kind of neat to see that that's what's happened. We also have a program called Digital Main Street that's also just finished as of Saturday, and that's a digital grant program. We're hoping it'll be continued. But we'll have to see about that. And it was a $2,500 grant that companies could get who had commercial storefronts or had commercial office space and paid commercial tax. They were entitled to that. So as unfortunately, hate to be the bearer of bad news, we're coming into a season where some programs close and then we have new ones opening. So keep in touch with us and then you can always see what's going on. We've also helped make sure that $50,000 worth of monies has gone into women-led businesses, women identified businesses, and it's that's been through our partners at Innovation Guelph and the RISE program, or it was actually called RISE Ventures at the time, and so that's also finished as well too. A reason I say that is because a lot of these programs we run are based on funding opportunities. So we will get some funding from a government or a partner or a source, a foundation, and it's meant to run a program. And then unfortunately, when it's finished, it's finished. So my job, part of my job here is the ED here is to constantly look for new programs and search for new money and new pockets of money that we can then build programming to support our entrepreneurs. So it keeps me out of trouble, that's for sure. So the next thing I want to talk to you is why we're here today. So Bridges to Better Business. This is, we're celebrating, there's actually Small Business Week in October. And there's a certain week that they celebrate. We actually take it one step forward and we celebrate the whole month. And we do this with, it's called, our whole month program is called Bridges to Better Business. And we are supported through this through our friends at the Federal Economic Development Agency for Southern Ontario, which is easily known as FedDev Ontario. So we do thank them as our partner and our sponsor. They help provide the opportunity for us to be able to deliver all this great programming for you. And if you haven't seen the rest of it, I mean, this is just the launch today, but we've got lots of great stuff coming up. So we would invite you to look on our website. You can look under programs and actual Bridges to Better Businesses listed there. Or you can go to the event space and you'll see a bunch of stuff that Angie is our program manager. She's fantastic. She's the one who lines up all the great talent and great activity for the month, including a small business crawl that we're going to be doing. So we're actually going to be going and visiting 8 small businesses in downtown Guelph, and that's coming up. And you get a chance to actually talk to some of these entrepreneurs and hear about their struggles and hear about their good stuff. And it's a great opportunity to see what's possible if you're thinking about starting a business. So that's all listed on there. Please take a look at that because there's lots of great sessions. And this stuff is all free to you. This is your taxpayers' dollars coming back to you, folks. So I always encourage people to take advantage of our programming, our workshops, our one-on-one with advisors, because that's what we're here to do. That's what the center, the support that we receive from our partners provides us the opportunity. And respectfully, as I said, it is your taxpayers' dollars coming back to you. So take advantage of it. If you're not sure where to start, you can always let us know. We'll gladly direct you. Okay, so that's kind of the business side of things. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer something, but otherwise we'll get started with our programming. So I want to start first of all with some of you, I'm sure maybe a lot of you have heard of Simon Sinek, maybe not, but I want to start with something because I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. And today we're talking about strategic planning. We're talking about, how to sort of strategize with your business, and again, whether you're starting a business, building a business, it doesn't matter. The principles are the same. And a lot of people have to, when I get people to start, they say, okay, Kristel, I got to figure out my sales and I got to figure out my marketing and I got to really strat. And it's like, actually, you really have to start at the beginning again. And if you're in a place right now where you're trying to build your business, or if you're trying to start your business, you really need to get clear on some of the very foundational pieces that we're going to talk about in the next hour that will help then solidify your strategy, solidify your business planning process, and probably, I can't guarantee you 100% success, but it will certainly set you out on the right pathway to success. So why I want to start with this is just exactly what I said. The why is Simon Sinek is a great, he's an amazing entrepreneur. He's a best-selling author. And I love his approach about things, because for anybody who's looking at running their own business, you really have to be clear on the why. Why are you doing this? Because I'm going to tell you right now, for those of you who are new to entrepreneurship, it's not 9 to 5 and it's not 5 days a week. Running businesses are 24/7, especially in the early stages of development and growth. And when you are not working in your business, you're going to be working on your business. So it's really important for you to be clear on why you're doing this. Why do you want to do this? And understand that why. Because I'm going to tell you that why will help fuel that passion, will help fuel the energy that you will need in order to accomplish that. And so this is a really good reminder. And I like the way he approaches it. So we're going to play it and hopefully cross your fingers it plays. Thanks, Angie. Let us know if you can't hear it for any reason. He'll talk in a second, I promise.
Can you hear the music?
It does sound very choppy. I can barely hear anything.
Yeah.
Why was born out of pain. It was never an academic or commercial exercise. It was born out of a time in my life many years ago, 10 years ago, where I had lost my passion for what I was doing. I owned my own small business. I was living the American dream. Superficially, my life was fantastic. And yet I didn't want to wake up and do it again. And I was embarrassed by that. You know, who am I to complain about my life? My life seemed perfect, and yet I hated it. And so I kept it to myself. Every ounce of my being, all the energy that I had was invested in pretending that I was happier, more successful, and more in control than I felt. And it was debilitating, quite frankly. Strange things start to happen when you put yourself in that cycle and the stress starts to build. You start to become paranoid. So for example, I was convinced that my employees hated me. I didn't go out much, and it was really a bad time. And it wasn't until a friend of mine came to me concerned that I wasn't acting myself and basically offered me nothing more than moral support. Whatever you need, I got your back, I'm worried about you. And it was that simple act that gave me the courage to face my own problem. And it was that simple act that gave me the courage to seek out a solution, to go back to the way I used to feel, to be passionate about something again. There was a confluence of events. And I made this discovery that every single organization on the planet, even our own careers, always function on the same three levels: what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. And it was based on the biology of human decision-making. It wasn't some highfalutin management theory. It was based on brain stuff. And I realized I knew what I did and was good at it. And I knew how I did it. I could tell you what was different or special about the way I did things, but I couldn't tell you why I was doing it. That was the missing piece. You have to have all three. I became obsessed with this thing called the why. I figured out how to find my why, and it restored my passion to levels I had never experienced before. And more importantly, I figured out how to help others find theirs. And I did what anyone would do. When you discover something beautiful, you share it with your friends. And my friends started making crazy life changes themselves. And they started finding happiness and passion that they'd never experienced before. It was me solving my own problem that happened to help others solve it for them too. And people just kept inviting me, and I just kept saying yes. I was making huge decisions that were really easy to make. Like I shut down my office and started over again because I realized the business I had built was so inconsistent with my why. All my friends thought I went out of business and they were worried about me. It was the easiest decision I ever made. In other words, when you know your why, the filter is clear. It's not like there are options. The option is obvious. There's only one option: share, give, inspire. And everything that I've achieved, any success that I've enjoyed, has all been 100% because of the gracious, just amazing generosity of people around me. My friends, my colleagues, people who just believe what I believe. They're the ones who either introduced me to others, or took a risk, or said, let me try that, or bought a book, or watched a TED Talk, or more importantly, sent it to somebody else because they would be inspired by it. For all of the things that I've done over the past decade, I still feel like I'm at the beginning. I have been saying it for 10 years, and everybody says to me, you know, congratulations on X, Y, or Z. My answer is always the same: tip of the iceberg. And I think that's what keeps me inspired, which is, for me, it's a journey. I'm on the right path. I'm walking past the right mile markers. In other words, I know I'm making progress to the vision that I have to build this world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired to go to work, feel safe when they're there, returning home at the end of the day fulfilled by the work that they do. When I started the race, I ran by myself. and it's lonely, lonely, lonely. And now I got like 1,000 people to the left, 1,000 people to the right, and 1,000 people behind me. And I look around, I'm like, yep, we're going to change the world. We're going to change the world.
Hmm.
There you go.
And then a nice hug. Isn't that a nice way to finish that? It is a great book. Thanks, Deb. I appreciate you saying that. I just love it. And if you do get a chance to read the book, you should. It's the why, and it's exactly what he's talking about, you know. And I will tell you, I've been in this business a long time. I've had the beautiful privilege of owning 4 different businesses. I'm on my 5th business. I teach business. I mean, we're here at the business center. Angie is also her own business owner besides the work that she does here at the center. All my advisors are all business owners besides the works that they do to help us, support us at the business center. And, you know, every once in a while, it's good for you to come back to just revisit the why are you doing this, right? The purpose, what's your cause, what's your belief system, you know, because as he mentioned, he knew how to do the how. He knew how to create what he was doing. He knew why, you know, the results and you know, he had the proof that it worked, but he had to revisit the why to make sure that that was fueling the energy and the passion that it was going to take in order to build it to what it was. So isn't it interesting how he totally changed his business model based on just not understanding the why? And sort of, as he said, he closed it down, he sort of shut it down and just said, I need to rethink this, revisit. And then he came up with the why. And that's sort of reformed his business model, if it really makes sense. So why it's important to you to sort of think about the why. I'm going to get you to flip, or actually I can flip, right, Angie? Yeah, perfect. So, you know, if you're sort of, and again, this is very high end, folks. I'm sort of at the 30,000 level because we've got a lot to talk about. So I don't want you to think that I'm skipping through things, but we work in this in more detail in some of our other programs that I'll talk to you about. So if you need more time and energy and want to really visit this, then I will suggest other stuff that, you know, for example, we have a 6-week program starting at the end of October. That would be perfect. But for now, for those of you just to get the idea from what you want to do is to make sure you're honing in on the why is actually coming up with what they call a purpose statement. Yes, this is actually a component, an element of strategic planning, because you will revisit that statement a lot. You will revisit it for yourself. You'll revisit for any type of employees that you come on board. If you build partnerships, if you build collaborators, whatever that looks like, even working with suppliers, it's going to help inform the decision-making that you use when then you come back to your reason why. And that's why it's really clear to get clear on it. So just a couple examples. You know, there's one here. Our purpose is to inspire every family in the world to enjoy Sunday dinner together. You know, that's a pretty big why, you know, and it's not based on profit. It goes beyond. It's sort of a lifestyle. It's a reason for being. You know, the second here, I should have put the company's names here. Our purpose is to support the health and well-being of our planet, everybody who lives here. That's, again, a pretty broad purpose statement. But it's something that you want to, you know, it's going to go on your website, it's going to go in your social media, but more importantly, it's going to inform the culture of your business. And that culture of your business is something that's going to become the piece de resistance, if you will. That'll be the piece that keeps fueling people to make sure you're making those movements in the right direction, in a positive direction, and that you're serving what you want to serve ultimately. And you ultimately what you hope would happen will happen, and it keeps you honest, and it's a good reminder. So a purpose statement is something that you can look to, build on, and again, we can get more details when we go along. Unfortunately, it's just a session of talking about the parts of it. I'll get you to flip to the next slide, Angie. Here's a couple more. Harley Davidson, you know, to fulfill the dreams of personal freedom, to build communities of people who love the freedom of the open road. That's a purpose statement. Anybody who drives a Harley, I used to have a partner who had a Harley, and you know, there's a certain group of people that love their Harleys. They're very dedicated to the brand, and that is, you know, so talk about that, the feeling that any Harley rider has. they've encaptured that. And so it becomes part of their culture, right? And everything that Harley Davidson does is building around this freedom of the open road. Apple, a lot of us have phones or computers or use Apple devices or Apple apps or things like that. Look at their statement: to make tools for the mind that advance humankind. It's a pretty broad statement, right? But it brings back their purpose, right? And if you think about what they do and how they do it, they are serving their purpose, right? They do make those tools, they do make those apps, they do things, and humankind is advancing. I'm not sure if there's a whole different argument if it's going in the right direction or not some days, but it is advancing, right? It is. There's lots of things happening on a daily basis. Google, to organize the world's information and make it universally useful. Again, think about Google. You know, you're looking for some information. Oh, wait a minute, I'll just Google it, right? That's the first thing. We don't even say, I'll look it up or I'll find that information. A lot of us will refer to the term, I'll just Google it. So Google's become its own verb now, right? It's, you know, but, you know, to think about what Google does, and that's what it does. It's the purpose that they've decided that's what it's for, and it actually fulfills their purpose. And so if they're looking at other partnerships or opportunities or maybe expansions or other collaborations, they're going to make sure that before they go down that road, that it's coming back to its ultimate purpose statement. Nike, right? To bring innovation and inspiration to every athlete in the world. And if you have a body, you are an athlete. How interesting is that? So talk about being inclusive. So even if you don't identify as an athlete, they're saying that because you have a body and you live in a body, you are an athlete. So whatever that looks to you, helps you be inclusive what they're trying. So they're trying to bring their innovation to everybody. Pretty interesting, right? Give it some thought. Purpose statement. And again, if you're having trouble with that, take a look online. There's some more Simon Sinek stuff that can help sort of drive that, or read his book. It's fantastic. I revisit it probably once every 5 years, maybe, just to sort of remind myself too that, you know, why am I doing what I do, right? The next thing you want to think about, and it's a part of your strategic plan, believe it or not, is to be clear on your core values, right? And there's a lot of things around, because as you're building a company, and as I said, this is not just for startups, folks, this is for existing business too. And if you haven't done this work, it's a valuable time to do it. The Business Center, actually, we do a lot of workshops, we do a lot of retreats with existing companies who are looking to do strategic planning. And we always get them to do this stuff before. And they're like, what? We didn't think we, and you know, making sure that they are in their alignment with their core values, that the company is operating from a place that, you know, it doesn't mean everybody's necessarily in agreement, but everybody understands and shares the core values. That's a really, really intricate thing. And it's a great exercise to do if you are with yourself, with your business, is to make sure that your business and because you're starting to build culture, because you might be on your own now. You might be a solo entrepreneur right now, but you might have intentions to hire eventually, or build a team or collaborate, or maybe you're going to take on some partners or whatever that looks like. But let's be clear on what those core values are, because you will be tested. You will absolutely be tested, right? And so you want to make sure that everything that you're doing is, again, an alignment. The values are very clear as to what business you will do and what business you won't do. And that then it continues to, those values continue to feed your purpose statement. So core values means absolute must. And wish values are the things that would be nice, but are not critical to your, will not deviate your purpose from any one which way or another. So, you know, you might wish to be a certain way, but you want to make sure that the core values are there. So some really great things there, like oriented and passion and fairness and humility and discipline and all these things. We actually did a core values exercise with our team. I think we're overdue, actually, Angie. That's probably something we should do now that we're getting to meet back in person again. But prior to COVID, with the team I had there, we did a core value exercise, and we actually, it's on our webpage, just about the values that are important to us as a team. And we collectively did it together. So again, there was some differences in opinion, but at the end of the day, we collaborated, came up with a list of them, and they do appear as that. And those are all the values that we continue. And we have revisited them to make sure that they're up to date and things like that, and to make sure that we still feel the same that we did. And it's a valuable exercise, because again, as you're starting to build a business, part of the strategy is to build the culture in which you want people to want to work in, They want to be a part of it. They want to see what you're up to. They want to be part of that progress. And that's why it's important to make sure that your core values align with your purpose, for sure. Okay. Alongside of that, one of the other elements of strat planning is to make sure that you have a mission statement. Some of you may be familiar with mission statements, and some of them get confusing. Some people get confused between mission and vision. So let's talk about mission first of all. And mission statement, as you can see, it describes your organization's fundamental, unique purpose. What I want to say to you is that it's important. It sort of speaks to what the organization delivers, who they serve, and how they do it, right? So it's kind of, remember when Simon Sinek's talking about the what, it's the value of the organization, what you do, who buys it from you, and how do you do it, right? But what I want to be very clear about is present. It's a present tense. And why I say that is because the vision, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, is always future tense. That's one big core difference right there. So it helps when you, if any of you are building a business plan, or even, and again, business plans are great for new businesses, but also existing businesses. I'm shameful to say, I'm going to admit this. In my 4 businesses that I had prior, I never did a business plan. I know, here I'm teaching it, right? Can you imagine the nerve? But what, and I spun around and spun around and spun around. I wish I had done. That's why I help teach about business planning, because I see the importance of it. And I respectfully, I didn't know services like the Business Center were around, right, to help. So that's why I'm glad you're here, because that's part of Angie's and my job, is to make sure that lots of people know that we're here to help support that business planning process. Because I tell you, I got a lot of scars on my back, but my job is to make sure that you don't get so many scars, and that, you're supported in this. So, and part of the business planning process actually incorporates a mission statement. So if you're doing an actual business plan, there is a section in your business plan for your mission statement, for your vision, for your purpose statement. They are meant to be there for a reason, because if you are looking, most times people are busy doing a business plan. For some people, it's doing a roadmap, but for a lot of people, they're using business plans for financial gain. Perhaps you're looking for a loan or looking for some investment from, real estate investors. You're looking for some sort of impact from something, maybe venture capitalists. There's something that you want, and they say, well, you need to do a business plan, and then we can take it out. So when you're doing that, it's very much like what we call a business case. You're building a business case as to why the bank should give you the money, or why the investor should invest some money with you. You're building a business case. And so you want to use the business plan as a way to set the stage, if you will. You want them to understand what's the purpose of the business, that purpose statement. What is it you do, and how do you do it? Because the reader of the plan needs to understand. So for example, if I was submitting my business plan to a bank manager, I want that bank manager to be able to read my plan and systematically, by the time they finish, get a really clear crystal picture of what my business is, why I'm doing it, what it involves, the whole, they can almost envision it in their minds. Because the more work that I can do to get them to understand that we're building a culture, we're building something that is, actually going to be something, we want it to be purposeful and intentional, then we want to make sure that they're crystal clear, because that's when they give us the money, along with good credit and things like that. But you have to build a business case. So you want to use this mission statement to make sure that the purpose there, helps to motivate people. So if you do have staff members, they can be part of this. Like, being part of the mission statement is a great thing. Board of directors, if you have a board, or advisors, anybody who's involved in any kind of the operations of business, it's good to get their sort of thoughts about it. It gives you it again, helps to focus you, helps to direct your energy, your attention, and things like that. And it really sets the stage that your business to be taken seriously, because you've thought about it. You've thought about why you're here, what you're doing. Here's how we're going to do it, and here's how it's going to impact our community. So really, really important to get that clear. And it takes time, folks. I worked with a group that most recently, it was a large Ontario organization, and they were revisiting their strategic plan. And we started from scratch. And I'll tell you, the mission, vision, purpose, that was probably six to 7, 8 hours maybe of workshopping to get them to a point where they were happy with the mission, they were happy with the vision, they were happy with the purpose. And then they could get into the actual planning process. But they were so out of alignment with each other. They were so out of alignment with what was up to date with what was going on with the organization. And so we had to have those hard conversations to make sure that everybody came into alignment, because when everybody's in alignment, then there's nowhere to go but up, right? And go that way together. Okay, thanks, Andrew. I think we have a couple examples. JetBlue is the airline to inspire humanity, both in the air and on the ground, right? So they're telling you how they do it, why they do it, right? Tesla, most people are familiar with Tesla, to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. It says nothing about cars there. Interesting, right? It says nothing about cars. It's a little broader in their statement, but that's their mission. They want to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Interesting. I would say if they wanted to add something, they might have said by building, cars that can do that or whatever. But I understand that Tesla is looking at other avenues as well besides cars, which makes sense why they've kept it very broad. LinkedIn, to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. So it tells you exactly what it is that they do and why they do it, okay? TED Talks, if anybody's ever heard of TED Talks, love that. 2 words, spread ideas. Talk about simple, and again, it doesn't have to be complicated, folks. It is just, again, but really, and people say, oh, Kristel, it's a bit of a pain in my butt to have to think about this. You can't afford not to think about this, because this is going to be part of the culture that you build and the legacy that you're creating. And again, if anybody has any intentions of taking this larger and growing the business, maybe you want to sell it someday, maybe you want to start here and make sure that this is where ground is. You're grounded here, you're ready to start. Nobody builds a house by just buying 2x4s and slapping them together. You need a foundation, right? You need a base root, a foundation, somewhere to start with. Building your purpose statement, building your mission statement is part of that foundation piece. Thanks, Angie. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. So as I mentioned, and hopefully this is not confusing to you, but the vision statement is more future objectives. So it's more about what you want and what you're building for the company as well. It usually is part of three parts as well. It says what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. It sounds very similar to the mission, I know, but it's not. It's more going futuristic as opposed to the mission is right now. So one way you can use that, remember we talked about core values, is you want to make sure that there is a set of organizational core values and that you can actually use some of those in your vision statement, right? You can use some of that wording and terminology. The mission statement you can see. Understanding the culture. And again, unless when you start to build something, even if you're a person of one or a team of one, you still have a vision. I'm sure any of you sitting in there in this room have a vision of how you intend it to be, how you would like it to be. That's what your vision statement is. So the mission is right here, right now. This is what we do every day, and this is how we do it. And the vision is, this is where we're going to be, and this is how we're going to do it, right? In the futuristic tense. These 3 are critical pieces. And as I said, this group I was working with is at least 5, 6, 8, I don't know, it was a full day workshop. And it was exhausting because there was a lot of discussion and integration and trying to, but it was really important for you to do this and hammer this out, right? It's going to be a key piece of business plan. It's going to be a key piece of when you go, if you're presenting, maybe you're presenting and get the opportunity to talk to investors or doing a pitch, any kind of pitching. A lot of times people are pitching for money these days. This is critical piece. This is critical mass, because I can tell you, you can put all the numbers. We're going to do these sales. We're going to do this. This is our marketing tactic. But if they don't understand why you're doing it and where you're going with the company, you've lost them. I can guarantee it. Because nobody is going to make an investment into something that they can't see the future of. So If I'm new to your business, this vision statement helps me paint the picture in my head of where the future is going with this business, right? So the mission is here and now, the vision is future. Here's some great statements as well too. Walmart, be the destination for customers to save money no matter how they want to shop. That's interesting. I love that. You know, Disney, you can read for yourself. Be the world's leading producer and provider of entertainment and information. Isn't that interesting? I think that's fascinating to say that that's their intention. Is entertainment, yes, I understand, but information, I find that interesting. I guess through their TV, and they have the TV channel and their shows and programming, things like that. Starbucks, to establish Starbucks as the premier purveyor of the finest coffee in the world. That's pretty intentional, right? That's pretty visionistic to say, you know, we are going to be the premium coffee in the world. Pretty intentional. McDonald's, to be the world's best quick service restaurant experience. Interesting. And I'd like to pick on a couple that we've already seen. Tesla, so remember we saw this, the mission statement for Tesla. Now for their vision, where they want to go, so that was how they did it now, where they want to go is to create the most compelling electric car company of the 21st century. So they did add the car in there. Interesting. And the 21st century. So this just gives you a couple examples. I know we got to carry on, so we'll keep moving on, but I really need you to think about these sort of three pieces. I'll just leave you, and it's kind of nice to see these side by side. So I mentioned Nike earlier in mission statement. I'm sorry, I apologize. It gets really dry all of a sudden. So their vision statement is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Remember, they said, if you have a body, you're an athlete. Love that. I think that we also had that under purpose too, which could be the same thing. While its mission statement is to do everything possible to expand human potential. We do that by creating groundbreaking sports innovations, by making our products more sustainably, by building a creative and diverse global team, and by making a positive impact in communities where we live and work. So you can see that's what they do right now. That's what they do right now. And the vision is to make it, you know, so that everybody identifies as an athlete. Doesn't matter what your body looks like, as long as you have a body, you can be an athlete. Okay. So really, really kind of an interesting way to tie that together. Thanks, Angie. So we talked about the why. We talked about really getting clear on your purpose statement. We talked about making sure your core values and understanding what your core values are and actually communicating those core values, whether it's on your website, whether it's in part of your mission statement, your vision statement. That's why it's a great way to start with your core values first, because those words that you come up with that are values that you wish to incorporate can be then incorporated into your mission and vision statement. Next part of that is when you talk about strategic planning is your goals. And I'm sure everybody has heard of SMART goals. This is a great graphic that I borrowed from one of our friends here. And it's really interesting, but it's a great way to sort of, again, remind ourselves. Now, goals, I can tell you in a business plan, they're written in two sections. They're written in for the first 6 months of the business. Or again, if you're expanding business, you could be in the first 6 months of expansion. And then the second half is written usually within a year's time, because it's important to be measuring. And so that's why it's good to have the milestones that you sort of separate, you know, what did we do in 6 months and how do we look after a year? And those goals, you want to be, when you're making those goals, you want to be specific about what you want to do, right? Very, very specific. What is the specific goal? You know, if I would like to, maybe I'm thinking about opening a second store, for example. I have a first store, maybe I'm looking at opening up a second store. So I would like to have a second, you know, location in place by, what, 6 months from now? Let's just say March of 2024. Okay. Or maybe I'd like to hire I've got part-time employees, but I'd like to make that full-time employee within 6 months, right? So by March of 2024, I would like to have a full-time employee. Okay, that's a very specific goal. You want to make sure it's measurable in a sense that you have a way of going back and reflecting on that goal to make sure that it was something that that's why it's got to be very specific. If in March 2024, I revisit and I don't have a full-time employee, or I don't have that second location, that it wasn't specific enough, right? I didn't achieve that. It wasn't something that I measured properly or did a proper job in.
I just
because it wasn't
shared,
achievable.
I just
Sorry?
shared a SMARTS
Oh,
goals
perfect.
template into the chats for both Facebook
Thank you.
and here.
Thanks for that. And Angie, what Angie's talking about too, we have a great partner organization that we work with, that they have produced amazing templates that are all this. So these are actual worksheets that you can use. And so Angie's shared that for you. Please download these. So I just tell you, when you go onto the website, it'll just ask you for your email. I promise you, you will not be solicited in any way. I promise you, I give you my word, because this is our partners, and they made these a lot in conduence with when we built the programs. So they helped us with that, but it's just a way of them tracking. So that's all that they use that for. But there's tons of templates on there. So make sure you do that and start writing these goals down and practice with them, right? Make sure they're realistic. Make sure there is a time element. That's why I mentioned March 2024 and those goals in examples I was talking about, because there has to be a time element. Just to say, well, I hope to hire somebody next year is not specific enough. It's not smart. It's not, it's too broad and too fuzzy. I want to make sure that I stay on track with that, make sure I have those goals that I want to achieve, right? That's what's really important. And hey, in 6 months, if you didn't make your goal, okay, you didn't make your goal, but maybe, you had 5 goals listed and you only made 3 of them. That's okay. That's still progress. Then let's revisit those other 2 that you missed out on, and then give yourself again another time frame. SMART goals, it's part of strategic planning. You have to work towards something, folks. You have to be motivated to work towards something. And that's part of the process when you do strategic planning, is having those goals in place to work towards. Okay. So really, really important. Thanks, Angie. Thanks for sharing that template. It's a really good thing. So what I want to bring you to is that with the vision, with the mission, with the goals and values, these are all 4 components that before we haven't even started talking about sales or marketing or anything like that. It's important that you get these because they all work with each other, right? So this is just a reminder of, mission is what you do now, how you do it, what it achieves. The vision is where you're going, what you want to do, what you eventually want to be known as. Your goals are tangible ways for you to carry out your mission. So your goals are directly tied to your mission because they are within the present tense, right? The goals are what you plan for in the next little while. And then the year-long goals are your vision, are part of your vision. You see the correlation there. So you do 6-month goals related to your mission. You do year-long goals or 2-year-long goals related to your vision. And that way you've got something that are both smart and trackable, and then you can keep on track with them. And the values, always keep coming back to your values. Always, with every business decision you make, you want to make sure that you're coming back to your core values. And remember, I said to you at the very beginning, there will be some decisions that you'll have to make, folks, that you'll think will be anti-business, or, sometimes you'll have to fire a customer. Yes, you heard me say that right. There are occasions where you will have to fire customers, folks, if you can't seem to get to agreement, if they're difficult customers, if you're sort of working against each other and you can't seem to get that connection going, that connectivity. It could be your value systems are out of range here. So, you make sure that your values are aligned, and it doesn't have to be perfectly aligned, but there's got to be some commonalities. Otherwise, you're going to get that frustration and that friction. And honestly, it'll cost you a lot more in the long run. So it's really important for you to be super clear on all 4 of these and see how they have to work congruently together in order for you to make sure you can in a position to move the business forward. Once you're set on that, now we're cooking. Okay. Yeah. That's really, really important. So 6-month goals, mission, year plus goals, vision. Thanks, Angie. Sorry, I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that. Excuse me. So once you have that, then we move to the actual, I'm not going to say business side of things, but this is the actual production of the business. And you want to think about it. It's called a value proposition canvas. And these are fantastic as well. And so again, what you want to start thinking about as you start to do your strategic planning, the 2 most important things. Now, I will say to you, whether you're a product-based business, or we should actually put a service in there as well. You can be product-based or service-based, it doesn't matter. What I would say to you is, those of you who are in the room that are service-based businesses, I would like you to sort of start thinking yourself and thinking about the service that you provide as a product. I want you to productize it in your mind. The reason why I say that is because a lot of people will say, well, I'm a service-based business. You know, my services are a little different how I deliver them, and fair enough, but the principles are the same. Sales are the same. You know, the marketing activities are the same. You know, it just, again, it might be a little different because it's not product based, but it's service based. You're still going to use the same formulas in order to be successful. So for those of you who are service based, start to think of yourself. So for example, if I was a consultant, and that's a service base that I offer is my IP, my specialty, my intellectual property, I would start to look at my, perhaps I charge by the hour for my services. Then 1 hour of time is a unit, it's a product. Okay, see what I mean by making it sort of productizing it? And so it's sometimes it becomes easier when you start to think of it as product. As you know, if I do a project that's maybe 20 hours, that's a unit as well, right? So you want to start thinking about it as a product. What you want to be clear on, and it doesn't matter, you can't sell anything or do anything and build your business until you are clear on this. Never mind the customer. We want you to be clear on this. You know, what are the benefits? What does your product or service do? What does it do? What does it fill? What gap does it fill? You know, how does it work? You'll hear about benefits and features. You know, if anybody goes to buy a new car or buys an appliance or buys something, you know, you'll hear about the benefits. What does it do? And what does that mean? You know, so for example, if it's electric windows, you know, what's the features? What's the benefits of that? So if the features, it's electric windows, and here's how, you know, it's easier to get your window up and down, things like that. It's really important to understand what it's like to use your product or service. So you have to understand, and we'll talk about the customer journey in just a minute, but you have to really understand your product or service inside and out, right? Because, you know, it's before you can get clear on that and understand it, because that's going to be a credible part of you, your sales process, your marketing. And unless you're crystal clear on what it is you actually do, then that's going to be difficult. And I'll show you how in just a second. There's the other side of it where the customers, yes, customers are important. And we want to make sure that, you know, you understand the wants and the needs of customers, right? What is it they want? What is it they need? What is the driving of their purchasing power? So, you know, we are all customers as well. Think about your own experience as customers. And that's why I always say you have to sort of take yourself out of the market and sort of put yourself in your customer's shoes, if you will, and think about it from their point of view. If they are already buying a product or service from somebody else, why would they come to you? Why would they switch their provider, if you will? What would fuel that? Is there, you know, they have to be pretty convinced that you know what you're doing about this product or service. You know how all about it in order for them to make that move, because why would they, right? And if they are getting product and service, where are they getting it from? And we'll talk about that in just a second. So there's a lot of homework that has to go on as we build our pipeline for sales and strategy. Okay, there's a lot of pre-work that has to go on. And I'll get Angie to flip to the next size. Here's how we do it, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that this is done properly. Market research. If you're talking about strategizing for your business, and again, I don't care what stage of business you're in, if you're starting out or you're, you know, already a developed business, market research is something that is really, it can be, some people think it's pretty boring or whatever, but it is absolutely critical to your success. And I can't stress that enough, because it doesn't matter what stage your businesses are, you're going to be looking at adding new products, new services. You know, for those who are existing businesses, you might want to be, you know, adding a product or adding a new service or adding something. You need to do the research before you do that. And you want to make sure that there's a need and a want for it and a desire for it before you invest the time, energy, and money into that. For the startup businesses, some of you will already have a great idea and you think it's a great idea, and your cousin said it's a great idea, and your mom and dad said it's a great idea, or your spouse said it's a great idea, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily that it's a great idea in the marketplace. So before you go and spend time and energy and you know, building this product or trying to sell this product or service that nobody's going to buy, you want to make sure you do your market research. So every stage of businesses, I'll come back to that in just a sec, Deborah. Every stage of business is something that you need to do, okay? You want to figure out the people, right? There's a certain customer. So people say, oh, I'm opening my business and everybody's my customer. No, they are not. I'm going to put a hard no on that because they're not. You know, your particular product or service might be applicable for some people, but not everybody. So it's really important for you to do your market research to figure out what the demographics of your customer are going to be. And so there might be an age component, there might be a gender component, there might not. I'm just saying there could or couldn't be. There could be a lifestyle component, what stage of life they're at component. There could be lots of things, okay? And so, you know, for myself, for example, if somebody was trying to open up a business, maybe where it was geared to small children, maybe it was doing birthday parties or something like that, not necessarily my target market. I wouldn't be their target market because I'm not at a stage where I have little people in my life. My children are all grown up right now. I don't have grandchildren yet, so I'm not necessarily a target market for them, right? Where the parents of those young people would be a target market, right? And so figuring out where those people are so that I would then inform me on my marketing activities and things like that. Do you see what I mean? But if I was just a blanket, you know, advertisements or blanket postcards or send out mailers to the entire city, it's an incredible waste of time, energy, and money, because I'll be lucky if I get maybe even less than an eighth of people responding. Okay, so we want to make sure that you are focused on the right target market. And Deb asked a question about how we do this. I'll tell you, share a little bit with what one of the strategies we do, but I'll tell you our 6-week stepping into business is the answer. 6 weeks, and we actually spend one of the weeks, so it's 2 hours a week for 6 weeks, and we spend 2 hours on market research where we go through a lot more detail, Deb, than I have time to unfortunately today. So that's a great one, and thanks for asking. And that's free of charge. We'll make sure you get that too. Sorry, can I go back there for a second, Angie? Just one real quick. The product mix or scope, you know, if I'm starting a new bakery, I want to make sure that, you know, I make sure that I have the right products in my bakery. You know, if I'm madly in love with butter tarts and nobody likes butter tarts, or let's say tarts in general, but I decide I'm going to put a whole bakery full of tarts, and then I find out that in the community, a lot of people like tarts, then I'm going to be in trouble, right? So understanding that you do surveying and research to make sure that whatever your product mix is or your service mix is, that there's an actual market that is interested in buying it from you. Price point, that's another sensitive issue. I hear people say, well, I'm going to be the best value at the cheapest price. And I said, absolutely not. You are not. Because people associate value with price, right? Let's be honest with you. We all have perceived values. We're all educated customers. Everybody sitting in this room is a customer as well, right? And so we all have, if I say to you about a car, for example, all of us have just put a price point put in our head, which we deem as a relatively marketable price for a car, okay? All right, there's a value, there's a market value there for you. And for people starting business, just because you're starting a new business doesn't mean that you need to undervalue your product or service because you're new to business. You're not new to what you know. You might have been educated in your field. You might have worked in your field. You have all this experience, these credentials that you bring to your particular type of business. That's why you're here. Because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be here. So if I built a business on, you know, and I've gone to school and I've been educated and I've, you know, maybe I've trained as a naturopath and I've gone to school and I've done my hours and I've done all my education and training and I'm a fully fledged naturopath, I'm not going to discount my services because I'm a naturopath new in the marketplace. I'm going to do my research to figure out what the other naturopaths are doing and how much they're charging. And then I'm going to figure myself somewhere in the middle there. Okay. Price is a very sensitive thing, but as soon as you start cheapening your price, then you're cheapening your service or your product as well. Okay. Yes, it does, Deborah. Yes. Promotion is marketing. We're talking about marketing. And if you take the 6 weeks, I'm not trying to sell the 6 weeks, folks. We don't get any, we don't charge for it at all. So it's free of charge, but it's an excellent place where we have longer conversations about this. Marketing is literally a 2-hour conversation, but when you talk about, you got to figure out which ways to market your product or service. And again, not all methods apply, and again, I would tie it back to my people, the demographics of the people I'm trying to attract to my business. Then I would look at promotion and type of marketing techniques that would be most suitable for people of that demographic. So for example, if I was looking at targeting people who are 50 plus, if I'm looking at social media, a high percentage of people who are 50 plus use Facebook as opposed to Instagram, as opposed to TikToks, as opposed to Snapchat. Okay, that's just a fact. It's a research fact. So if I'm looking at using social media, I'm more apt to target my social media to Facebook as opposed to going to Instagram. It doesn't mean you can't use Instagram. That's not what I'm saying. But based on the research, more people in the 50 plus range use Facebook. So if I have a product that's appealing to 50 plus people, I'm going to choose Facebook before I do any other platform. Okay, that's where that research comes into place. And place, where are you selling your product or service? And I dare say, if you are an e-commerce business or an online business, you really have to think about how you're going to promote your services, right? Or your products. Because if you're online, there's a lot of work that has to be around what they call search engine optimization. You've probably heard of SEO, but that's a real thing, to make sure that if I Google your particular product or service, I want to make sure, you want to make sure as the business owner, that it's the first thing that comes up when I Google that product or service, your name and your business, right? There's a lot of work that has to go into that. Or if you have a place of business, how do I drive traffic to make sure that people come and visit my store or come and visit me at the marketplace, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so all this market research has to go on, and you'd be amazed at how many people Angie and I meet on a daily basis that have done none of this research and then find themselves in trouble because they made a lot of assumptions. Let's make sure that you're making educated guesses based on the research, and we can help get you on the right track with that in our 6-week series for sure. Okay, Angie, the competition, that's the other thing we have to think about. Who is our competition? There's what we call direct and indirect competition. So just to explain it, everybody has competition, folks. Every single person, every business has competition. So you need to know who's in the marketplace, what they're selling, how they're selling it, and how you do that is probably through, I think it's SWOT analysis is next, Angie. I'll just get you to flip one more ahead, please. There we go. So a SWOT analysis, this is a tool that you can also download. But what you want to do is you want to take a look at your competitors, and what you want to look at, you use this tool to sort of figure out, and this is not to, we're not looking to belittle or beat them up or do anything like that. We just need to be knowledgeable about the marketplace. So you would pick somebody who's a competitor, you would call them, visit them. If you know them personally, then send your friend in, send your family member in, shop the store, shop online, go through the experience, call them, whatever that looks like. And then what you want to look at is, what do they do well? You need to know what your competitors do well, right? Because if they've been in business for 35 years, then they're doing something right. So maybe they have a great website, maybe they have great marketing campaigns, maybe they have great customer service, maybe they have great product lines, whatever it is they're doing well, let's pay attention to that, okay? Let's look at what they don't do well. And why I say that is because, again, we're not looking at them to use that against them, but from there, what they don't do well often becomes our opportunity, right? So if they have a crappy website, or maybe they don't have online with maybe they don't have an online store with their website, or maybe they have terrible social media, or maybe they have terrible customer service, whatever. Again, we're not going to use that against them. We're going to use that to our advantage, because that knowledge helps fuel our strategy around how we are actually going to build our business model. So if there's something that's missing, so if they have a terrible website, we might look at make sure that we spend the extra dollars on our website to make sure it's fully functional, it's a good website, and it's got lots of positives for our customers to navigate, right? That again gives us a step ahead. If we don't know, and if we haven't done the research to say who these people are and how, then we don't know how to place them in the marketplace. So for example, if furniture stores, if there's 5 furniture stores here in Guelph, and I'm deciding I'm going to put a furniture store in, I'm going to make sure that I pick something that's unique and special about my business, so that when I put my furniture store in that marketplace of 5 existing furniture stores, that there's something unique and interesting and going to make people want to come to my store. Otherwise, you're just splitting the difference and nobody's ahead, if that makes sense, right? You want to make something that's new and interesting and special. And if you don't do your homework and you don't do your research, how are you going to know? Okay. And the last thing is the threats there, the trends. And it's not a negative thing. It's understanding in the general world about what's coming. And for each of you in your industries, it's knowledge is power. So understanding that there's certain new products coming on board, there's new services, or I have to be very generic because I don't know what everybody's doing in this room, but being on top of the news, understanding, watch what's going on. Nobody knew 4 years ago that COVID was going to be what it is, right? Nobody had an idea it was coming. Nobody. And yet, I'm going to say in November of 2019, there was, we could see the news, things were happening in Europe and China, and terrible, terrible atrocities and things happening in the world, people being sick and dying and things like that. And to think that it would stay over in Europe and China and all that area, and to think that it wasn't going to come to Canada would be short-sighted, right? Because just the amount of air travel and all over the world, right? People are traveling, all over the world every day. So, those businesses that were watching already started thinking about what would happen if they had to shut down their business. They were making plans about, curbside and doing takeout and having special windows and doing all kinds of things that they did. So, they were making things, and I'm not saying that they were perfect at it, but they were paying attention and they were starting to think about what would happen. And sure enough, 4 or 5 months later, it did happen. So, that's what you got to pay attention to. It's your job as your entrepreneur. It's your investment. It's your money. You want to make sure that you're paying attention and that you're understanding where things are going to go. Okay. Because knowledge is power. Okay, Angie. That gives you your competitive advantage. And as I mentioned, you want to make sure that there's something different about you. It could be even just your level of customer service, whatever it is, but it's something that you can speak to that's different about you and will help make you stand out in the crowd. And whatever that difference is, you will utilize in your marketing routines, in your marketing tactics and things like that. But again, unless you don't have that information, you can't possibly strategize. Remember, we're still talking about strategic planning here. You can't strategize as to what your competitive advantage is because you don't know. And that is not going to get you very far. So you have to understand what makes you different, what makes you unique, and then utilize that as part of the component to make sure that it's marketed so that you stand out. Okay, that's your competitive advantage. Again, I'm flying through things, folks, because of the timing, but we do this in more detail. Do you know your customers? Remember, we just talked about customers. I'll get you to flip one more slide, please, Angie. Excuse me. This is this is a tool that Angie will share with you as well. It's called a customer persona or a buyer persona. And it's really important for you to understand who your customer is. Remember when I said to you a few minutes ago, not everybody is your customer, because they're not. This is a tool that you can use to actually help build an avatar, if you will, of who your traditional customer can be. And you might have 1 or 2, top 3 customers, no more than that. Because once you get past 3 customers, then it gets very convoluted again, and you're not being focused. So figure out, use this tool, and this is, Angie uses these all the times when we build programming, but all of you have already an idea of your demographic of who you're serving. So you build this sort of portfolio or this avatar around them, and it helps you keep focused, because every time you make a buying decision in your business, is it servicing your avatar? Is it serving the customer profile that you have? Profiles can change and they can ebb and flow, but there are going to be general consistencies, if you will, with your customers. And so putting a name and a face and an identity to them helps you in that buying decision, and make sure, again, that you're, 1, staying on track with your purchasing, B, servicing your customer, and really reflecting back to what we started with an hour ago, talking about purpose, culture, and core values and what we want our business to be, and utilizing and making sure that our clients are also part of that core value and are purposeful. Are we intentful, and are we following through what we said we would be? This is a great way. And this is good to revisit every time, every couple, I'd say once a year for sure, because customers will change, things will change, and make sure you're updating this all the time. But it really helps you get to know who your customer is and that you're buying appropriately for them or you're servicing them appropriately. Okay. Thanks.
I like reminding people that if your customer is an age demographic, you'll age up yourself.
Sure you will.
But your
Absolutely.
customers might say that you might want those same age of customers, so they'll age out, and then you need to figure out what's important to the new people that are coming in at that age range.
Thank you. That's a great
changes.
reminder. And Angie's a pro at this stuff. Like I said, she does them all the time for the business center, because we as a business center, we make sure we do this all the time to make sure that we're being relevant to the customers that we serve. You are customers. We are trying to be relevant. This is another way, customer journey map. So once we've got the avatars, then we actually work through the process. And again, this is a tool that's available to you. But, you know, sort of, again, remember when I said about walking in the customer's shoes? So this is an actual tool that helps you step back into the customer's shoe. And from the point of them becoming aware of you to considering doing business with you, see, I'm following the top line there, if you will, with the highlighted in navy blue there, to consider doing business with you, to actually doing business with you, to actually getting the delivery of the product or service, and then getting them to your clients to be advocators of you, right? And so there's a whole process. There's activities, and you can see for each of the columns there, you know, from a point of awareness. So, you know, how do I get people to know about my business, that I'm open for business? You know, what activities can I do? What's the goal of those activities? What's the touch points? Touch points refer to, it's a minimum of 3 touch points. This is a documented fact, 3 touch points to interact with clients before they will actually take you serious and do business with you. 3 before they even do business with you. So how do we make sure we get their attention? If I am in a consulting business and I'm a service-based business, that could mean the 3 touch points could be, maybe I met them at a networking event. Perhaps then I sent them a follow-up email after maybe we exchanged a business card. So that's 2. And then perhaps I sent them a follow-up email or I tried to book or phone them to book an appointment with them. That's 3 touch points. I haven't even got in front of them yet. But it was 3 touch points in order for me to get to that point, right? So you want to make sure in your business, what are the touch points? If you're a physical store, you know, maybe you've got a grand opening, maybe you've got an actual storefront with a signage. You've got your Google where you've got, you know, location finder, make sure that's set up. So if anybody's Googling you, that comes up that with all the proper information about your business, so I know how to find you. Again, different touch points. So this is a great tool. And so, you know, in the consideration phase, that's what support do I provide the customer to make sure that they're going to buy from me and not somebody else? So is that your website? Is that your social media? Is that a demonstration? Are they physically in your store? Are they physically in your place of business? Do I have a portfolio that I show them? And again, I'm being very generic, but what is it that I'm going to provide them to help make their decision to go with me, right? And then once they do, what's the activity that happens? How's the sales process go? Do I use, you know, if it's a physical product, what type of wrapping do I use? If they're leaving my store, what kind of bag do they have walking out? You know, what type of, if it's an SEO or if it's an online business and I'm sending product, how do I make sure it's properly packaged? How do I make sure that they don't get it and it's broken? You know, that type of thing. So again, from the point of purchase, what's the intent? What are we going to make sure that happens? You know, the delivery of it, things like that. And then you can see at the last part, we want to make sure our customers come back. There's a really important rule called the 80-20 rule. And this is probably if you hear nothing else that I've said today, remember this: 80% of your business will come from 20% of your customers, period. 80% of your business, all the business you do, will only come from 20% of your customers. So it's really important to keep those 20 loyal, right? Keep them intentful, keep them from coming up, keep them, you know, be your champions, your advocates, things like that. And how do you do that? How do you keep them engaged so that they want to continue to celebrate you, tell other people about you? Once you have all these 3 together, right? You've got your customers, you've got what you do well, and you know what the competition is. Then you have what we call your unique value proposition, right? And until you have all the knowledge and understanding of all those three and how they work congruently together, you don't have a business. I'll say that truthfully. You don't have a business. Once you get these all three working together, you'll see in the middle, there you have unique value proposition. It doesn't have to be perfect, but they have to be working in conjunction of these. And the only way you have that is by having that knowledge to be strategic about how you're going to run your business. That unique value proposition is your strategic plan right there when you've got all things working together. That's the easiest way I can say it. Okay. And you have to keep playing and prodding and poking. It's not going to be perfect, but this is the process. It's not for the faint of heart. I have to say that. Angie, I think we've got our keep moving here. So I want to tell you the business model canvas. This is the tool I was mentioning. If you are interested in doing a business plan, business plans can be, 5 pages versus 100 pages. A business model canvas is a 1-page business planning document. This is your action plan, folks. This is how you take your strategic plans and you put them into action. And if you notice, the very center of the canvas here is what we call the value proposition. So once you have that value proposition that we worked so hard to get, that unique value proposition. So I know my customers, I know my product or service, and I know my competition. I know where all of those, where I fit with those. That's my value proposition right in the middle. And then you use the rest of this to help sort of chart out, your partners that you're going to work with, your activities. You can see it sort of walks through each one of them. The revenue streams, the cost structure. This is a great planning tool that can be used from startup businesses to existing businesses just trying to build a business case on something new or expansion. Okay. And this is also downloadable, which we'll share with you. But this is your action plan. This is what you can quickly look at a glance, and 6 months from now you can say, oh yeah, look at, we did do that. We did have those key resources, those channels worked. This is how we did this, right? That's how you do this. You make sure, remember, they got to make sure that action plan had the goals, right? The goals are there. You know what you're doing. You've got your vision, you got your mission, you got your purpose, you've got your goals, you know where you're going. This is how you do it. Okay, this is the meat and potatoes right here. Okay, business model canvas. And again, we spend a lot of time with that. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about KPIs. And if anybody's familiar with KPIs, they used to be called key performance indicators was the formal term. Now people have changed up a little bit. So old school is the key performance indicators. New school is keep people interested, keep people informed, keep people involved, keep people inspired. KPIs are measurables. You want to make sure, remember at the beginning, I talked about measures and making sure that SMART goals, those SMART goals, that one of the key things was measurable. You will know from your results, from indicators that you've put in place, whether you're successful or not. So that's why it's important to track all of this. That's why you use a business model canvas. You can track your success, track where you're going. You'll be looking at your sales, you'll be looking at your performance, you'll be looking at all these things, and things will ebb and flow and adjust accordingly. Okay, but this is how you get somewhere. A couple of things I want to just mention about strategic plans. You want to make sure, external, that should have said external and internal factors, but making sure that you're well aware of what's going on outside and what's going on inside in your business, right? You have to understand both of those. And that's where that research comes in. Set intentional, realistic goals. So, to make $1 million in 2 months might not necessarily be a realistic goal unless you have that special unicorn, which it's a very small percentage of us does, less than 1%, less than 0.5%. Okay. So make sure that you're thoughtful and intentional about realistic goals so that you have great, you're moving forward in a productive way, but it's you're not defeating your purposes either. Your sense of urgency, make sure you commit. Once you commit to this, follow through with it, right? There is an urgency to this. It's your business, it's your livelihood, and only you are in charge of that. So if you've decided on this and you're action planning things, follow through with your action plan. Use a business sense of urgency with that. Use your strength. Leverage your business strengths, right? Leverage what you do well, get help with what you don't do well. right? You can work with partners, you can work with other organizations, work with other people to partner with the stuff that you don't know. I suck at accounting, I always have. So in my businesses, I have an accounting bookkeeper actually that I work with. That's their job. They work with the bookkeeping. They take care of that end of the business for me so that I can do well at the business stuff I do well with, and I can leverage that, right? Prioritize your business culture. It is important to have a culture because it's going to be a key component of you driving business as well as attracting people to your business, both customers and potentially team members. You need to get the commitment from these team leaders. If you do hire people, everybody has to be on board. Everybody. This is time spent with employees, right from the beginning employee to the management level. Doesn't matter. Everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody. Okay. And have an understanding. Figure out your strategic goals. We talked about that. Transparency, like be honest about your journey, right? Be thoughtful, intentful. If you mess up, you mess up, own it and move forward. You know, don't blame other people. Don't blame somebody. Talk about it, make, you know, own your mistake, figure out what you need to do to correct it and then move forward, learn from it. Monitor, measure, feedback. I've told you, you've got every step in every process, whether it's sales, whether it's marketing, whether it's operations. You should have metrics, you should have KPIs that you're measuring, watching, and learning from, right? And always reward the positive results, even if it's just yourself. If you're one person show, do something special and positive to make sure that you celebrate those positives, because there's going to be lots of hills and valleys. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. So you have to celebrate the wins when you get them. And that helps keep that passion and enthusiasm when everybody's celebrating the wins. It's not just about the losses, that we're looking at the wins too and celebrating those, right? Because when we have those losses or those times, then that's what keeps us, you know, moving towards the win again, right? Definitely. So those are some really clear. I always like this. If you do what you always done, you'll get what you've always gotten. So thank you for your time and attention today. I know we're pretty close to the wire here. I hope that this has helped. As I said, this was just a very high level kind of all the things you need to think about. Like I said, we work with strategic goals and we work with companies all the time. It's a process. The workshops I've done have been 2-day workshops, so that's quite intensive. It doesn't have to be that way, but I just need you to know that there's a lot that goes on and you have to take it seriously if you want to be successful. We're trying to set you up for success. So next steps for sure would be to look at our programming. As I mentioned, we've got our 6-week series coming up. That is a really good program and it's free of charge. It's 2 hours a week for 6 weeks, and we will talk about all those key components in more detail. So we get to spend 2 hours on marketing, 2 hours of market research, financials, and we work with a business model canvas throughout. So that way you're sort of journaling and plotting as we go along. So that's in the end of it, you have a completed business model canvas, which is usually the way to go. Also, you know, we've got great programming. As Angie can tell you, we've got our Business 101 coming up. We have programming through CRA, I should say, CER.
Yep.
I don't know where I was going with that.
Yep,
Canada
yeah.
Revenue. And all the other great stuff that Angie has plotted for the next couple of weeks. She's got some really good stuff in there.
So
Angie, thoughts?
going on that, tomorrow we have the reality and civility truths of becoming more visible when growing your business. And then on Wednesday, we have keeping everyone safe at work and following the law. So that's all illegal. It's geared specifically. Our Wednesday one is to small businesses and getting into business, understanding what your legal requirements are on health and safety. What I'm going to ask is that anybody who is in our Zoom room to stick around for a second. I'm going to thank everyone who is watching this recording after the fact or who is watching this on Facebook Live. I don't see any questions currently on Facebook, so do just email us success@guelphbusiness.com or send me a message through Facebook if you have any questions later on after watching this. But I will say thank you to those people. I'm going to turn those off, and then those people who are in the room, we can have a more open discussion from there. So just give me 2 seconds. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.